We live in a really strange time right now. Mark Zuckerberg claims to have a change of heart all of a sudden, and he no longer supports censorship. He's pretending to be, or we'll be nice, we'll say he's now all of a sudden an advocate for free speech. Joining me to discuss, Mike Benz. He's the executive director for the Foundation for Freedom Online. And Mike, I'm glad to have you here today because I saw the video he posted on X. We're going to play a clip from it in just about a couple of seconds. But I'm a little hesitant and I'm not really buying what he's selling right now. So for our audience, in case you guys missed it at home, let's play that clip of Mr. Zuckerberg saying he is now an advocate for free speech.
A lot has happened over the last several years. There's been widespread debate about potential harms from online content. Governments and legacy media have pushed to censor more and more. A lot of this is clearly political, but there's also a lot of legitimately bad stuff out there. Drugs, terrorism, child exploitation. These are things that we take very seriously, and I want to make sure that we handle responsibly. So we built a lot of complex systems to moderate content. But the problem with complex systems is they make mistakes. Even if they accidentally censor just 1% of posts, that's millions of people. And we've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship. The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms.
All right, Mike. I'm not sure if I'm buying what he's selling. It does sound pretty genuine though. What do you think of all of this?
Let's go. I actually was looking around looking for my Trump wine. I'll tell you, I have a little bit of a different take on this. I agree with you insofar as you can't really trust Zuckerberg because he does not have the characteristic of bravery that is necessary for you to really depend on someone's word. But I actually think this has been a long, long time coming. I remember when Zuckerberg complained about too much censorship on Facebook in 2019 and was already signaling publicly in public speeches that he wanted to remove many of the hate speech provisions that were at that point already targeting hundreds of thousands of users on Facebook and was generating user pushback. But what happened next was a campaign called hashtag change the terms hit Facebook. It cost Facebook $60 billion, billion with a B, in market cap in just a few weeks. And so Zuckerberg, fearing for the financial safety of the platform, gave change the terms everything they asked for and externally delegated so much of its censorship infrastructure to these third-party groups, incorporated all the changes in the algorithms that were requested just to make the pain stop. You saw a similar thing flare up in 2021 with the COVID censorship. Zuckerberg did not want to censor user claims on Facebook or Instagram or WhatsApp about man-made COVID-19 issues, origins around COVID-19. But he was told by his global policy director, Nick Clegg, who was the former deputy prime minister of the UK, who wrote the book How to Stop Brexit after Brexit already happened and encouraged people to join Keir Starmer's Labour Party, the man who is now arresting thousands of people in the UK for memes and clicking the retweet button. But Nick Clegg convinced Mark Zuckerberg, in emails we now have because of Jim Jordan, that Zuckerberg needed to censor everything the Biden administration asked for because we have bigger fish to fry on multiple policy fronts with the Biden administration. So we should think creatively about ways to be receptive to the Biden administration's demands for censorship. And Zuckerberg pleaded with Clegg and said, can we at least tell the public that we're only doing this because the government told us to? And it appears the answer to that was no. So Zuckerberg sat on that for 2 years until there was a little bit of political safety. And I think, frankly, until Facebook had had enough because they felt betrayed by the Biden administration not fighting for them against the EU Digital Markets Act and Digital Services Act. So it's a long way of saying I actually think Zuck does believe this, and he does have an ideological affinity with Elon Musk in that way. But at the same time, there is a moment where it's easier to do this now. In fact, it's politically beneficial. And so he can sort of get what he wanted before, but not have to take the risks that he did before, because now you have these hard charging heads of the FCC and Brendan Carr. You have these hard-charging heads of the FTC and Andrew Ferguson. You have a Justice Department that is now, going to be totally flipping the other way, and you have a new State Department who is going to be aggressive about taking on foreign governments coercing censorship. And so all of these factors have shifted. So I think it's safe to sort of come out as a libertarian now in a way that was not before.
Yeah, and to be fair, too, to add to your point, when President Trump went through his first assassination attempt, I know Mark Zuckerberg said that he did reach out to President Trump to have a conversation with him, and that was a big motivator for him to jump on board as well. So hopefully he sticks to his word. But there's six key things that he's now changing. He's not doing the fact checkers anymore. He's moving to community notes. He's going to be getting rid of a lot of the restrictions for terms like gender or immigration terms, which is also really important because, transgender terms are constantly nuked by conservative voices who are speaking on their platform. And there's other things too, like he's going to be working with the Trump administration to make sure that countries aren't bullying American countries, which is going to be good for countries, for those in Brazil, at least I should say, because we all know that this Brazilian Supreme Court loves to bully American companies into censorship. So I am a little optimistic about this too. So let's hope he sticks to his word. But Mike, I have to ask you, because you did a great job at analyzing the footage of the pipe bomber that was released by the FBI magically just a couple of days ago. They found footage that they were able to release to us. And you notice there's a lot of editing being done to this footage. And it's really hard for folks like myself to run it through any type of program to maybe get some biometrics or any information off of it from that angle. What did you find from this video that you thought was concerning?
Well, it's actually the original footage. I've been sitting on this for several
Oh.
years. This is in March 2021 and then September 2021. The FBI released two different cameras from the DNC pipe bomb site, and this is what you see here is what I call camera one. This is the and I'll be releasing later this week the same eye blur they did to camera two, but
Mhm.
there has been the FBI. I always say the FBI is where evidence goes to die. They are professional evidence destroyers. I think anyone who has seen what has happened in any high profile case where there's a whiff of government corruption or inside job or cover up, they have done this every time, all the time. You want to go back to Oklahoma City and all 22 video cameras being destroyed so that there was no way for Jesse Trentadue to be able to get those in discovery. You want to go back to the Jeffrey Epstein 2 security cameras being destroyed, the visitor logs being ripped out and non-recoverable. There's so many it'll make your head spin. But when I was very deep in the pipe bomb research events right after that happened, I was going through these pipe bomb videos. There were only two that were released, and the FBI just released a new video basically for the first time in 3 years. That FBI page had not been updated since September 2021. But in both of the DNC camera footage, now remember, Watergate happened in this country because the DNC headquarters building was broken into. And yet somehow both of the DNC security camera footages were nuked down to 1 frame per second. That is 30 times less than the average 7-Eleven. And this is the party headquarters of the DNC. So it's very obvious that the frame rate was deliberately nuked before being made public. Now, likely the FBI sent this, they took the footage, as they always do in every investigation. They take all the original footage from all the locations. It's likely that someone at the FBI handed off the footage to a third-party contractor for processing, so that there's some level of plausible deniability that it didn't happen in-house at the FBI. They can always claim an error occurred at a third-party offsite. And then that was reduced down to 1 frame per second. Interestingly, this first one in this video was not, but that was when it was far away. It was before the DNC sites were nuked down to 1 FPS. Now, the nice thing about reducing it to 1 frame per second is not only do you have far less information than if it was published in its original form, which would be somewhere between 30 frames per second and 60 frames per second, continuous motion. But that means they only had to blur the eyes on about 4 frames instead of about 120 frames or 240 frames, and making those minor little adjustments every little time to the eye to the eye blur. But understand, the pipe bomber was wearing transparent glasses, which meant if a camera that is 20 feet away, you would be able to zoom in and see it. I remember when I first went into that footage and I went through all the FBI files that had been released on the pipe bomber, and I brought them into 100x zoom, 1000x zoom in the software I have. And I remember finally when I got to that frame on the park bench, I thought, we're going to get this guy. We're going to get the irises. And once you have the eyes, you can run that into facial recognition. You can do biometric scanning. If that person ever was in the U.S. military, their eyes would show up in a database. If that person ever had committed a felony, that person's eyes would be in a database. And if this person is out there planting pipe bombs, there's a very good chance that either they had a criminal record, in which case we'd be able to ID them from their eyeballs, or they were a former U.S. service person who knows how to make a pipe bomb. But amazingly, the only moment of horizontal blur bar activity is when that person's eyes are available, both in the 4 frames here and in the 3 frames from the second camera footage. So it's very evident to me, beyond the nuking of the frame rate, that they actually intentionally did not want the public to be able to see the eyes, because that would allow you to run those irises in a database and come up with a list of potential people. You could narrow it down to just a few potential suspects. And whether or not this pipe bomber was him or herself a federal agent or federal informant, it's quite possible that they were not, but that they were instructed to do so by a federal informant or a federal agent, just like in the Whitmer Fednapping plot, which involved dud pipe bombs, just like in the 3 Percenters case in 2017, which involved dud pipe bombs, just like as their favorite thing to do is get people to make dud pipe bombs. And so if you know the suspect, then the criminal proceeding proceeds to the network. And if it turned out the FBI had advanced awareness of the pipe bombs being planted, that completely inverts, not just stops the January 6th narrative. It completely inverts it, because the whole thing, this was the major mass casualty event threat of the entire day.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the big issue with this. And, they always sit here. I was watching all these corporate media outlets. I think it was the day before. So January 5th, push up the fact that the FBI is still looking for this individual, and they're still floating that $500,000 reward. But we all know that's not what they're actually looking for. And I just did the story too recently about New Orleans, the terrorist who had that horrific attack on New Year's Day. The FBI showed up to his home in Houston, and like you said, went through the evidence, and left some things behind. But given the fact that it's an Islamic motivated crime, why would you leave behind a Quran, any material related to religion? His laptop is still present. You see that in the video footage taken by the New York Post journalist. And the FBI didn't give me a response after I asked them specifically about that. They went over to other things and tried to distance themselves from the evidence question. But then they later, according to people, might have just shown back up. This is according to the Harris County deputies. They went back to the scene, shut down the crime scene again. And we don't know if the FBI actually showed up again, but it sounds like that they did, because they had those deputies go there for a reason to close it down. So again, it's like the FBI trying to initially bury a lot of evidence, a lot of key facts in all of this, and it creates more confusion and chaos than transparency, what they claim to be all about these days. So I think the only way we get these answers, though, in regards to the pipe bomber, Mike, is if we finally get some answers through an FBI director. Maybe Kash Patel could finally get to the bottom of this. Are you confident that Kash Patel would prioritize this and be able to get to the bottom of it?
It's possible. It's also possible, and if not outright probable, that the key evidence has been completely destroyed forever. For example, it would be hard for me to imagine if you were to get the original source footage that the DNC security cameras actually recorded, and that were to be public, and you could actually see the eyeballs and ID the suspect. We know from the weaponization subcommittee that it was narrowed down to a single suspect. It was something like 800 potential suspects, or 150 or something, and then it was narrowed down, and then FBI agents were waved off the trail once they had a Metro card and a license plate number. And so, I mean, it's very obvious what's happening here. The pipe bomb event, the pipe bomb was the first pipe bomb was discovered at 12:48 p.m. which was 12 minutes before the certification. Just 1 minute later is when the perimeter breach on the Penn Walkway entrance to the Capitol started. And so it was the breach was timed to the minute with the discovery of the pipe bomb. Stephen Sund, the Capitol Police Chief, even personally said he believed that the pipe bombs were planted as a way as a diversion so that Capitol Police resources significantly underappreciated the threat that was happening actually at the perimeter, because the much more proximal and dangerous threat was a mass casualty event happening
Mhm.
just a few blocks over. And so they diverted resources. They were triaging. So the already understaffed area was tending to the pipe bomb rather than to the actual activity involving the breach. And so it's very clear this was if it turns out that this is just like the Whitmer case, it's just like the Tear Up Texas, Garland, Texas case, it's just like countless others before, Read Terror Factory by Trevor Aronson, what they were doing all over the GWAT era. If it's just an ordinary course FBI operation, well, then the entire insurrection becomes a Fedsurrection in one still footage frame of a camera that we may never see.
Yeah, well, I hope we do. I hope we do, Mike, because we got to get to the bottom of this because everyone who is a part of it needs to be held accountable, but also we need to make sure it doesn't happen again because it will if we don't hold these people accountable. Mike
And
Benz,
yeah,
as always, yeah.
I was going to say, and Trump today, I should note, for the first time, publicly came out and said the FBI knows the identity of the pipe bomber and they're not telling us. So the fact that it's on Trump's mind today, I think, goes a long way towards political viability to getting that evidence publicly seen.
I love to hear that. That is very, very important. Mike Benz, thank you as always. Being an independent platform is very, very expensive because I gotta be honest with you folks, I spend about 14 hours a day doing a lot of research on these stories we bring to you because corporate media doesn't want to talk about it, but we do here. And this show isn't accepting money from any foreign countries or corrupt corporations. It's funded by you all at home. So if you'd like to support my work as an independent journalist, we've set up a platform for you to do just that. It's supportbre.com. That's supportbre.com. That's where you can make a one-time donation or become a monthly donor. Now, the monthly donations are critical because that helps us hire staff, so we greatly appreciate it when you do just that. It's safe and secure. It's all done through DonorBox, folks, so it is very easy to do. So head on over right now to supportbre.com. That's supportbre.com right now because we couldn't do it without you.